Hello, welcome. Galacron here. Hercules' second labor by King Eurystheus, and of course, Queen Hera whispering into his ear while she was invisible, was to go and slay the lernaean hydra. It's out in Lernaea, but it was in a marsh. It was a swampy, swamp type of area. And supposedly, Queen Hera was the one who placed the Hydra there. It is a child of Typhon and Echidna, which again, Hercules is used to killing children of Typhon and Echidna. So him and Aeolus, so Hercules and Aeolus, went out there. And they went into the deep swamp, and what happened was there was a cave, and Hercules fired some fire arrows, lit the tips, and fired some fire arrows into the cave, and also fired some in the local area, hitting some trees that were standing out of the marsh, so on and so forth. And sure enough, the Hydra was so bent out of shape from the fire arrows going into the cave that the Hydra came out. And at that point, the Hydra had 9 heads. 9. So at this point, the fight had begun. And Heracles first used his club and bashed a head. And it was destroyed. And 2 more heads took its place. So he tucked the club to his hip, and he drew a sword that was given to him by Athena, his golden sword. I've never seen anything that said that it's indestructible. However, my understanding, it was an outstanding sword and given to him by the gods, which, in this case, Athena, who is Hercules' half-sister. So Hercules said, okay, I've got a better idea, and started cutting heads off. And then that only caused more problems. So then what happened was he had cut so many heads off that too many were growing back. Chop one, 2 more pop up. So Aeolus said, hey, Hercules, stop. And Aeolus was the nephew of Hercules. And he says, dude, I got a firebrand here. He took a branch of one of the burning trees and said, hey, let's go ahead and cauterize it. You cut a head off, and I'll use the firebrand to cauterize the stump so no more heads can grow back. Let's try a new approach. And Hercules was more than happy to oblige him. So by this time, there were 5 dozen heads. 5 dozen. So they had their work cut out for him. So Hercules showed off his fighting prowess with a sword and cutting heads off, and also his agility to make sure that the poison blood didn't hit him. And Aeolus was going to work with the firebrand and cauterizing the stump, and it worked. And then once all of them were cut off and firebranded and burned, there was still one head that was immortal, and Hercules cut that one off, and Aeolus, using the firebrand, he burnt that stump. So the one head that was immortal, Hercules couldn't kill that. Nobody could. So at this point, he said to his nephew Aeolus, he's like, well, we're going to have to do something with the head, but first I'm going to go ahead and dip all of my arrowheads into the poison blood of the Hydra. So the Hydra blood was poison, and it's one of the most potent poisons of all time. And so he went ahead and did that for his 100 arrows that were on him at the time or whatever. And he dipped the arrowheads into that hydra blood. It was poison. So at that point, that was cooked. He sheathed the sword and he went ahead and said, okay, let's take the immortal head and we're going to go ahead and hide this thing so that no one else can bring the hydra back to life. So he found a big crevice or hole further away from the marsh and dropped it in there. So Hercules was looking around and said, Iolaus, I need a big rock, something huge. And he's like, what about that one? He's like, all right, that'll do. So he gets this giant boulder that's like 40 tons, picks it up and shoulders it, walks on over and slams it right down on the hole and saying, okay, well, one can only hope no one's as strong as me or strong enough to move this boulder, because the last thing that anybody needs is this hydra, this child of Typhon and Echidna, returning back to life to torment everybody. Everybody in terms of humans. So, again, as the myth goes, there was actually in the cave where that hydra was hiding out an entry into the underworld. Okay? Supposedly, Queen Hera put the hydra there to guard and defend that entry into the underworld. Well, the hydra is now dead and gone, so in theory, someone could go into that cave deep enough and enter the underworld. Now, I don't think anyone's foolish enough to do that. In most cases, nobody wanted to go to the underworld. I mean, you'd have to have something like really important, because no one goes to the underworld and returns to speak of it. There may be some exceptions, like Hercules and Theseus and maybe certain people. But in terms of the common mere mortal, the answer is no. They would not be able to just walk into the underworld and say, okay, I'm gonna go now, and walk out. The answer is no. They simply would not be able to do that. So it's a very rare thing for anybody to just kind of wander into the underworld and do what you want and then escape and get back to the surface world. So anyways, that's the second labor of Hercules, was the slaying of the Lernaean hydra. So that's going to do it, guys. Thank you for watching. Galakrond out.